session is being taught by Jordin Peterson, and the topic is finding and using H.O.P.E to guide you through life's pivots. The topics and messages we are discussing today have the opportunity to change and possibly change lives. For many of us, these are not theories or stories of strangers, but real-life situations in our own lives that we face ourselves or people who are close to us. This summit was designed to inspire and educate each one of us, but more importantly, to enable us to bless the lives of others. My name is Debbie Treasure, and I am honored to be a board member with H.O.P.E Wellness. Yes, I love H.O.P.E and everything it stands for. And I'd like to take a brief moment to describe our organization and its mission. H.O.P.E is a Cache Valley-based nonprofit 501c3 organization that is entirely focused on improving lives by nurturing inner peace and preventing anxiety, depression, and harmful habits. H.O.P.E offers therapy for youth, teens, and adults, mental health training and instruction for businesses, medical care, missionary wellness center, youth wellness center, and 2 podcasts, which you need to listen if you haven't. They are fabulous. H.O.P.E accepts a variety of insurance providers, and bishops pay from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Please visit our website or follow us on social media for ongoing information. We kindly ask that you will fill out the evaluation form at the end of this session. There is a QR code in your notebook that will take you and we'll ask you just a few quick questions. And we need your feedback so that next year we can even be bigger and better. I am thrilled to introduce Jordin Peterson. Jordin is a wife, a widow, and a mama to one. She graduated from Utah State University in 2016 with a bachelor's degree in political science and completed her pre-law requirements in hopes of pursuing a JD. After some major life events turned her world upside down, Jordin found herself widowed at the young age of 24 and a single mom to her then 2-year-old daughter. After picking up the pieces of her broken heart and life, she decided to continue her education and pursue a new career in victim advocacy, with an emphasis and focus on childhood trauma. Jordin is now a program manager in the nonprofit world where she works with survivors of sexual exploitation. Jordin enjoys all things outside, but especially boating and exploring with her little family, as well as baking up a good treat or working on various home design projects. Through all of her life's twists and turns, Jordin shares a message of hope and some of the things she has learned through her personal journey of finding and keeping it alive in life. Jordin Peterson.
But thank you so much for that warm introduction, and this room is a lot fuller than the last room, so I feel like I'm a little more nervous, so hopefully my voice isn't too shaky. And my presentation wasn't working last time either, so now it is, yay, we were using my tiny computer screen. So this is better, but you will see on today's program that most of these amazing speakers have some really clinical titles behind them, right? So MD, PhD, LCSW, MFT, all those. And then you'll see mine and it has nothing. It's because I am speaking solely today off of my own experiences and things that have worked in my life while quoting a bunch of people. There's another disclaimer, I love a good quote, so you'll see quite a few. And anyway, so which can be kind of intimidating because there's all these people, like I said, with all this clinical background, and there's just me. So my hope is that you guys will be able to take something from today and utilize it in your own life. But we'll get right into it. So, like she said, my name is Jordin, and fun fact, I always hated my name. I never liked it, even when I was a little girl. So I go by Joe or Jojo to all my friends and family and coworkers, and I just like it better. Which is funny because I should have said, hi, I'm Joe, let's be friends, not Jordin. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I'm a wife, I'm a mama to the most amazing, incredible 7-year-old who is my son, Moon and Stars. You will see her face a little bit throughout the presentation. I'm a NOVA certified victim advocate. Who knows what a victim advocate is? A couple of you. Okay, great, more than I thought. We'll talk about that a little more later too. I am a nonprofit program manager. I'm a podcast host. I'm a wannabe florist, keywording wannabe. I always say that's my dream job. And you guys, I've applied to floral shops in the valley and no one will hire me. So that's not be very good. But I want to be. I'm a wannabe florist. I consider myself extroverted. Like, get the gift of gab, run strong. I'm the oldest of 4 kids, the oldest grandchild on both sides, so like my red type A, Enneagram 8 personality like fits the extroverted, you know? If that's me, we should be friends. And then I'm a lover, kind of like what my bio said, all things interior design, baking, traveling within the continental US. I have to put that because my cute husband will not leave the continental US, so we travel within here, and it's still wonderful and great. Fashion trends and deep conversations, again, going back to the extroverted. But we're going to go through a little bit of a timeline. This is my life highlight reel. This is kind of what I call it. So, but I'm not putting my early years because that would be way too long. But I was born and raised in Cove, so tiny little town right before you hit Idaho. If you're local, most of you probably know where it is. It's like population, nothing. But I grew up there and I had truly the most idyllic childhood. It was wonderful. My family loved to be outside, boating, camping, all the things. I was on the golf team in high school. I did student government. I was on the debate team again. My type 8 personality really shined on the debate team. It got me some good places and didn't serve me well though for my parents and my child in my teenage years, but we worked through it, so it's fine. But again, very wonderful childhood. When I was 12, that's where my dream for law school kind of was born. My grandpa had just gotten elected into the Utah State Legislature. I'm in 7th grade, and I remember sitting in the room while he's getting sworn in and just thinking, man, this is where change happens. I see the Wilsons here, and they get what I'm saying as Senator Wilson's here, like that is where powerful change happens, and I fell in love with that idea and the system and government, and so I'm like, you know what, law is going to be where I channel that, right? So that was my dream. I was going to leave Cove, never come back. I was going to move to the city, I was going to go to law school, I wasn't going to get married, I wasn't going to have kids, like this is what I wanted to do, and I wanted to do criminal and family law specifically. It's like divorces, custodies, things like that, the really heavy stuff that most people are like, why would you want to do that? But that's what I wanted to do. So in 2012, I graduated high school. We're coming to highlight point 1. And I hop on a plane 2-3 days later, and I'm in Washington, D.C. to nanny for a family. One of the best experiences of my life. That family I continue to be really close with. And living in D.C., again, it's just solidifying my passion for law school, the city, everything. And then life was like, haha, Jordin, that's funny. You're already married in 2013 at 19. So all my plans of, never get married and I'm gonna do all this and this. No, like life had another plan for me. And I married the boy I've loved since I was 12, and that is his handsome face right there. And his name is Devin. And I quickly realized that I could still do all my dreams and plans with him by my side. And again, 19. And I married a boy from the same zip code. So the part where like, I didn't want to marry, no, it did not. I didn't work. I married someone from here at 19, and it was great. I would not have it any other way. Then fast forward to 2015, I graduated from Utah State with my bachelor's degree. Again, all the pre-law stuff is done, and then we come to this stop sign where we have to decide, are we going to law school, or are we staying here? What are we going to do? Devin also was done with school and had a really great job that they had made clear they wanted that to be his career. And so I say the word shelved, the dream of law school, and decided, I'll stay here. I had a job I really liked. We bought a house up in the Lynchburg Park area, and I was like, okay, this is good, it's fine. And again, I say the word shelf because I want to pin that whole law school thing because we're going to come back to it later. Then I also found out in 2016 that I was pregnant and expecting our first child, who is our little girl, Lila. There she is as a tiny baby. And so, again, up to this point, my life had been extremely idyllic. But besides the regular, work woes, few relationship woes, just life, like it would have been so good. So I was so richly blessed. And then in 2018, everything changed. So this is my little family in October of 2018. We had just gotten family pictures in Arches National Park. And then on December 23rd, it was Christmas Sunday. We had gotten up, gone to church, packed our stuff, and we were on our way to Temple Square to see the lights at Temple Square. We hadn't made it very far. We were just here, hadn't even left Logan, when we were hit by a drowsy driver. She had crossed over 3 lanes of traffic, hit us head on, and we proceeded to roll 6 times. Crazy thing about all of that is I never lost consciousness, so I remember all of it. And this is a point in the presentation where I have to give a plug that has nothing, it has nothing to do with the presentation for rear-facing car seats, because my little girl, we had just switched back to rear-facing from forward-facing on Thanksgiving, so a month prior, and still to this day, like, experts have told me her rear-facing car seat saved her life. So again, it has nothing to do with this presentation, but it's just a plug for all your babies, grandbabies, whatever, you keep them rear-facing and you keep them in a car seat. But in one moment, my life completely changed. So my last memory of my husband is him literally gasping for air with his eyes rolling back because he died from a severed aorta that bled into the rest of his organs and he died on impact. So in one moment, literally one moment, my life went from just amazing, incredible, everything I ever could have hoped and wanted to completely shattered. And I added 2 new titles to my life resume, which were widow and single mom. I was 24, and again, my whole future was just shattered in that moment because all my dreams and plans were associated with this, with my person and this life that we were building and creating together. This was when I was in the hospital. I was rushed to the hospital. Like I said, Devin passed away on impact, so here we are separating our bodies. He's going to Salt Lake, and I'm going to the hospital, and I finally got to see my baby for the first time. And this was the first moment that I felt a little flicker of hope was seeing her. Then on December 29th, we buried that boy that I have loved at age, he was 29. And so instead of celebrating the most magical time of year, right, Christmas, I wrote an obituary and I planned a funeral. And Christmas is a little tainted at our house now, but again, life shattered. And I had no idea how I was going to pick up the pieces to my broken life and my broken heart and how in the world I was possibly going to move forward. And one thing that the idea of moving forward just seemed so overwhelming to me, right? Like, how do I even begin? And some of you may have felt like that, maybe not as extreme as this, but moments in life were like, how do I even pull out of this? Or where do I even start? And I remember reading a specific talk where the individual was talking about this concept of hope and how sometimes we have to start a lot smaller. Like concepts like faith and beliefs, and those are too big. We have to start smaller, so we're going to start with hope. In the middle of a military museum in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, it's amazing. It's in Du Bois, Wyoming. If you guys ever find yourself going through there, it's this national military museum. And on the floor during the World War II kind of section of the museums is this quote. And it says, where there is no hope, it is incumbent on us to invent it. And this is by a French philosopher, and they're talking about obviously all the destruction that just wreaked havoc from World War II. And I remember seeing this and thinking, and incumbent, I love that word, it's a very powerful, it's a very big word, right? But it's like a responsibility, basically. So it's our responsibility to create hope, and it's my responsibility to create that hope. So I started thinking about what does that look like? Like, what does hope even look like for me? And again, this word became such an instrumental thing in my life, and so I've broken it down over the years into 4 things that really encompass hope, but we're going to use it as the verb of wanting something to happen or to be the case, right? So I'm breaking down into action words that are all verbs that encompass this idea of hope. And the first one is heal. So healing is going to look a little different for everyone, but I love this quote. Again, I gave you guys a disclaimer, there's a lot of quotes in here, okay? But I love this one. And the moon said to me, my darling, you do not have to be whole in order to shine. And I think of this picture that the photographer did for me. My husband, Devin, loved motorcycles. And these are his leathers that I'm holding. And this was actually at the place we got engaged. It was on a lake, and she somehow magically brought in this kind of ghost image of him. And I think of this image because me, myself, my life, my heart, he will never feel whole, right? Because a big piece of it left when he left. But that doesn't mean that I can't still have a lot of brightness and happiness and fullness in my life. And so this is what I think of. So I want you to think of that too. We don't always have to, the broken pieces of us, we don't always have to be whole or complete to shine and keep moving forward. Healing, like I said, looks different for everyone. So for me, it looks like making new memories in new spaces with new faces, while also going back to those foundational places that Devin and I started. And so what I mean by that is that nanny family that I nannied for in Washington, D.C. flew Lila and I out to live with them in Boston and Vermont that summer. And we spent the summer all over the East Coast. It was incredible. I can't even articulate how much healing took place back east. We went to Kennebunkport, Maine. We went everywhere. We went to Lake Powell later that fall, a place that is my version of heaven. Like that is my Hawaii. That is my I will pick Lake Powell. Devin had never been, and I remember being in Lake Powell and just being so sad, right, that he never got to experience this place and having this very feel it in every part of your body and soul that he was right there, just experiencing it so differently, right? So our path forward looked so different, but that was such a healing moment. I took Lila to Disneyland. Devin and I were supposed to take her that February. We still went. We went to Disneyland. And again, we went back to the places that he and I created memories. Yellowstone, Teton, there's Jenny Lake up there. He and I set the foundation for that memory and we built upon it. And so much healing took place within those spaces and places. In a long-term study done by Harvard, the longest actually that they've ever done on happiness, researchers found that the number one thing that influenced an individual's happiness and overall lifespan was relationships and social connections. And for me, I feel like that is an instrumental part in healing whatever parts of your heart or life are needed, is to lean on those people closest to you, right? We'll get more into that later as well. Okay, the O. Own it. I think people are usually shocked when they see the O, because I think when you think O, you think like opportunity, or own it. People look at me like, what the heck is that supposed to mean? But I'm going to give you an example. So my little girl, my little Lila, and I wish I had taken her cute face and put it up here to share this story. But she's 7, and from the time she could talk, she very openly will tell you, my daddy died in a car accident, and I have 2 daddies. I have one in heaven, and I have one here. And she is very matter of fact when she says it, and a lot of people look at her like, oh, okay, a little shocked, because here's this little tiny kid who's just, ooh, here we go. And I was talking to a child therapist, one that I work with on a professional level, and they were just saying, there's so much power in Lila owning her narrative, right? That is going to give her momentum through her own grief as she goes throughout life and grieves this dad she doesn't remember. She will never know. Owning that narrative gives her the strength and the permission and everything to heal, right? And owning it, actually Brene gets this quote first, by Brené Brown. Who's a Brené Brown fan? Okay, yes, we all love Brené. She's like, if I look at my life bucket list, meeting her with is on it. But she says, owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. Owning our story and loving ourselves through the process is the bravest thing we will ever do. I think owning it is what gets us on this path to acceptance, right? So when we're going through something really hard and we are clinging to hope that maybe things will get better, we have to get to a point of accepting the current reality, right? This one was really, really hard for me because I think I spent a lot of time in denial. I didn't want to accept that Devin was gone. I didn't want to accept that this is what my life looks like now. But learning from my little Lila that owning this part of our narrative brought me to a better place of acceptance, and there is no shame in that, right? I think a lot of times we don't want to own parts of our story because there's a lot of shame associated, and that is not it. I think it actually is so free. It can be so freeing for us to own it. I have the opportunity to work for this incredible human. So when I said I work in the nonprofit world, I actually work with the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, and I get to work with her every day. And one thing I've always been so impressed with, that she shares a lot, is that she sees herself as a survivor. Again, there's no shame in that. She's not ashamed of that, because it implies strength. It implies that she's been through something insanely hard and that she's made it out on the other side. So here's another example of what owning our narrative and owning our story can do for us. That again is encompassing this overall overarching idea of hope. P, you guys, this one's my favorite. It's my favorite. We'll spend more time on this one, I'm sorry in advance, but pivot. Who's seen Friends? Guys, thank you. Okay, I love Friends. We could trivia off and I would win. I already feel confident that I would win because I've watched it so much. So there was 2 games that I did a lot of when Devin died, and that was I played games, a lot of games. And I watched a lot of Friends because if I was doing one of those 2 things, I couldn't cry. Because the games were keeping my mind occupied, and Friends was just so funny, right, that I couldn't cry. And this is one of my very favorite episodes, and I was watching it one night. But I'm going to walk you through it if you haven't seen it. You should look it up on YouTube if you've never seen France, but it takes us through a little bit. But it's set in New York City, right? So Ross, this top, I wish I had a blazer. One in the right-hand top corner. He buys a new couch. And again, we live in New York City, so he's got to find a way to get the couch upstairs. So he solicits the help of Rachel and Chandler, lucky number 7 over here, to help him, which are probably the two worst choices. In fact, even in the show, just Chandler, Monica would have been better. She's not good. And so they're trying to get this couch up the stairs, and it's not working. And so Ross is just yelling, pivot, pivot. And then Chandler gets so frustrated, he drops the couch and shut up, and he's getting so mad. And then the couch breaks in half. So they really had to pivot. Hello, complete new plan, and his new plan was to try to return it to the store, which, or she took it back for $1, I guess I should say. But I was watching this episode, and I just kept thinking, man, at some point in our lives, every single one of us are gonna have to pivot, right? Whether life forces us to, which was my circumstance, or we choose to, life is full of pivots. The pivots are gonna come whether we want them or don't want them. And usually, in our pivots are where we experience the most amount of growth, right? So again, we're gonna look at the definition to completely change the way in which someone does something. So for the first year, after Devin passed away, I had a very wise therapist tell me to not do anything big or drastic. Just feel the ebbs and flows of grief and just stay, just stay where I was at for a year. After the year mark, I was I'm suffocating. Some things have to change. It was time to pivot, and it was time to really dissect and look at what those pivots would look like. But this is one of my favorite parts. So one thing I really dug deep into was trying to find purpose through my pain, and finding purpose guided me to my pivots. And what did that look like? So here are some things that when I think of what this looks like, this is what it is. So number 1, a gratitude journal. Who writes in one? Not enough of you. Okay, great. If you take anything from this, go get one. Go start. In fact, I wanted to bring mine because I have multiple. But again, wise therapist tells me, Jordin, you start writing in a gratitude journal. And I'm no, because one thing I hated was when people told me after Devin died to choose happy. I hated that, you guys. I get the meaning behind it, and I get the intention behind it. But I was I am so knee-deep in, again, not knee-deep, I'm drowning in grief and sadness, I can't just choose happy. So my therapist challenged me to start writing in a gratitude journal. And there were some days that the only 2 things in there were Lila, she's always number 1, and my diet cover. It was a weak list, but we started small, and the list, I don't think I've included actually diet sodas in a long time, because my list, gratitude has turned what I have into enough, just like Dr. Shaw has said. It's extremely, extremely powerful. Number 2 is letting go of the things that no longer serve you. This might seem like a silly example, but I got really, really into high fitness when Devin was alive, right before he died. I don't recommend you guys, it's so hard on your knees and your joints, but I loved it at the time, right? I loved it. And when he died, I hated it. It brought me no amount of joy. And I felt it was almost triggering for me, because it goes back to what life was, before he died. And so I let it go. So again, that is a very small example, but I feel when we sit and examine our lives, sometimes it's the little things that we're we just have to let go of it, right? Number 3 is to set boundaries for yourself, your relationships, and other areas of life that might need it. And I think these are extremely important. Number 4 is the 5-minute rule. Again, wise therapist. Magic, he taught me this. But I had this problem where I would let my grief just compound, right? So I feel super sad, and I just push it down, and then it would implode, and I would just be suffocating again in how sad I was. And he told me that, walked me through this, he's Jordin, that's not good. So anyways, he's we gotta do the 5-minute rule. We've gotta start incorporating this. The 5-minute rule is, you set a timer and you look at the clock, right? Wherever you are, and you let yourself feel whatever it is you're feeling, sadness, anger, whatever it is, cry, scream, do whatever you need to do, let it all out, feel it, and then when the timer's up, you're done. And you pick up, and you keep moving forward. And that was so instrumental for me to be able to, because I feel in order to heal, you have to feel in order to deal with it, right? So anyways, the 5-minute rule, extremely helpful. Number 5, do something for you every day. Again, I loved what Jody said actually earlier about talking to your past self, talking to your future self, right? I think it's so important that we do things for us every day because we don't have the bandwidth to serve others, to do other things, to even think about doing other things, I feel like, until you yourself are good, right? And some may think that's selfish, but no, think of how much more you can do when you yourself are good, right? So during the month of December, that's Devin's death month, I have a calendar. I should have brought it actually. It would have been great visual because I still have them. But I do something for myself every day, especially during that month. And it could look something as simple as like a walk or a massage. But I do something for me intentionally every day. This also helps me kind of with the 5-minute rule, right? Like it allows me to kind of have intentional time to deal with things. Number 6 and number 7 go hand in hand. But to never be afraid to ask for help, and that's a hard one. And to number 7, find your tribe. And that is one thing I really want to emphasize with finding your tribe is that can look different for everyone. I think sometimes when I say tribe, people think families, right? And sometimes within internal family systems, that's not where your tribe is, and that's okay, right? Your tribe is who you pick to bring in. My tribe consists of my family. I'm so blessed and so fortunate to have my family, friends, co-workers, right? And people that kind of unexpected people that have been added to my tribe over the last couple of years. But you get to pick your tribe. It's the family that you choose, essentially. But again, working in this space that I do with survivors of sexual exploitation, we talk a lot about what's next and how to help survivors recover. And I was in a meeting one day, this is a couple months ago, with Dr. Rebecca Bailey. And Dr. Rebecca Bailey is like J.C. Dugard's therapist. She's a really well-known therapist. And we were just talking to her, she was advising us on some things, and she made the comment, it takes a village to get better. And oh, that hit me so hard. When Esther asked me to speak for this, actually, it was interesting, she was asking me some questions, and one of the questions she asked me was, what are the top 3 things that helped you the most after Devin passed away? And I told her 1, Lila. Again, she was like my wife for everything. 2, a real good therapist, like there's a plug for therapy. And 3, my village, my tribe is taking a village, right, to keep going and to keep moving forward. And then number 8 is to ditch the timeline, because grief is not linear and it will ebb and flow forever. And so to put a timeline on your personal healing journey, I feel like it's just stunting it. So all these things, again, are going to help us find purpose through it, which then guide us to our new pivots. So again, I'm here trying to figure out how to find purpose, how to find meaning, like what I can do. And so I have some really big ones. So my first one was, I moved. I think my mom really had an aneurysm when I told her and my dad, I'm moving to St. George. She was like, what? St. George? Like, again, the tribe, the village is here. St. George had 1 aunt and 1 friend. Like, people thought I was crazy, absolutely crazy. And I think they thought I was crazy too, to like leave this home, right, that was Devin and I's home. But for me, suffocated. I felt so suffocated. And this home, this actually was really helpful for me. This particular, my home that Devin and I bought, was always a transition. It wasn't our dream house. It was nothing like that. So it was easier for me to let go of. But I had to get out of that space, specifically at New 21. So I traded mountains for bedrock, and I moved to St. George. Instrumental in my healing. Again, I know this is a big pivot. People are probably like, Jordin, we're not all gonna move like to pivot. I get that. These are just some of mine. Here's another one. This is where we're gonna go back to the pin about law school, and we're gonna talk again about finding purpose through our pain. So my background had always been in sales. That's what I did after I graduated college. At the time, I was managing really large accounts within the swim and kind of fashion industry, and that had been my experience the majority of my life, and I loved it. But I didn't feel much purpose, and I didn't feel much fulfillment in that. So I pivoted, and I decided to go back to school to the Center for Legal Studies, and I became a certified victim advocate. And again, back to the pin. This is where I feel like God and the universe, what you're called to do and what you're meant to do, they will find a way to always bring you back. And what I mean by that is law, family law, divorces, custody, like things like that is what I wanted to do. And victim advocacy got me there in a different way. So, did I go to law school? No, but I did something instead that got me in the same lane that I love, that has brought me so much fulfillment. And my emphasis was specifically childhood trauma, so that I could better understand how to help my child process her trauma but I wanted to work in a space that wasn't triggering. I've done a lot of work over the last couple of years with like zero fatalities, right? And they offered me a job, and I got offered, and I offered multiple jobs, because as a victim advocate, it kind of marries law, psychology, and social work, a little bit of all of it. You're kind of like a trauma responder, you're a very well-versed person in trauma, and that was too triggering for me. So instead, I went into this avenue of child sex exploitation, and that is where I have found so much why. But again, it's like the universe routed me back to kind of where I've always wanted to land. And I think there's so much beauty in that when we reflect on our own lives, to see that where we are meant to be, we will land. Love this quote as well by Jay Salmon, but it says, "Pivoting is not the end of the disruption process, but the beginning of the next leg of your journey." And when I hear that, I kind of think of a tornado, right? And you're like, a tornado. I mean, when people hear tornado, they think destruction, right? Like bad, not good. What I think of when I hear starting new, and like the end of something is starting, I kind of think of tornadoes and what they do, because tornadoes wipe everything out on the surface, right? They wipe it clean, and then you have fresh ground to plant something new, and to start planning for something new. And I felt that so deep in my own life, like everything had been wiped after Deb died, and it was time to rebuild. So we went to work rebuilding. E is execute. So I give versions of this presentation. I've given it to a lot of different audiences, and at one point I had it as effort, but effort's not a verb. So anyways, we're sticking with verbs, but we're going to execute with effort, okay? So we're still going to use effort. But I've come up with like this is how I visualize it in my mind. Execution is way more than strategy, right? Like you can strategize, but we got to do it. We actually have to follow through. So the first is to visualize a plan or a goal. What is it that you want? And it can be something really small, or it can be something really, really big. Number 2 is to write it out. Number 3, this one's big, is to put a lot of faith over fear, right? And 4 is to execute with effort, to follow through. Again, through my job, I have incredible opportunities to speak with incredible people. Who is familiar with Dr. Daniel Amen? You should familiarize yourself with him, you guys. He is a world-renowned psychiatrist, really big in this space of mental health, and I got to fly out to California to meet him and work on some things a couple weeks ago. Life-changing experience. But there he is, such a short little guy. But this is one thing that I've actually implemented back to this visual, right? This is something that he taught me before I even met him. But he says, write on a piece of paper, write on your mirror, somewhere you can see it, what is it that you want? And it can be save X amount of dollars. These are not mine, by the way. I don't want to run a marathon. I do not want to run a marathon. So save X amount of dollars, get a specific job, run a marathon, whatever it might be, right? So write it down where you can see it. And reflect on those morning and night. Then ask yourself at the end of every day, did my choices today get me one step closer to these things that I want, right? So all this kind of goes back to this. Write it out, put the faith over here, and then the execution. So I also think too that no matter what, putting in effort will always get you some form of result, right? It might be really small, but like effort is so key in the execution. But what kills our effort? And this is also from Dr. Amen. Ants. And he was telling me this. He's like, it's the ants. And I'm like, what? And in my head, I'm like, you're a brain doctor? Are you saying there's like, what? And he was like, no, it's the automatic negative thoughts. So he teaches this all the time in his work, and he actually wrote an amazing children's book as well for all you parents and grandparents to talk about ants to help kids with like anxiety and negative self-talk. It's great. But it's the ants that kill our effort. And so just like water takes the path of least resistance, our thoughts do too, right? We get kind of these doom loops where we just circle, and it's ants. And so we have to find a way to kill the ants. And how do we do that? By doing things like this, right? Writing it down, visualizing it, picturing it, constant reminders. This is one of my examples. You guys are going to hear so much. I feel like you've probably gotten a plug for a podcast now in every little thing, because there's been a lot of plugs for podcasts. So here we go. Here's another one. So I started my own called the Pivot Podcast, because again, pivot. And fun fact, every episode is titled like the Friends episodes, the one where, the one when, you know? Yeah, I was super stoked about it. Anyways, but this took a lot of effort, a lot of fear, and putting faith over fear, and execution. So this is one example for mine, like a passion project that has turned into something so fulfilling for me. So there you go. There's a few things that there's a lot of topics that we talk about. And then this is where we get our result, right? This is my quote too, I'm proud of it. But none of us are guaranteed a happy life, and I learned that really fast. After Deb died, I think I kind of had in my mind, okay, my hard thing happened, now we're good, right? The universe is going to give me all the good because I had this real big thing. No, that's not how it works. None of us are guaranteed a happy life because it is up to us and only us to make it. Again, incumbent on us, it's our responsibility to build it and create it, but hope is so much stronger than fear, and it can propel us into a direction that manifests the change that we need. And then we're going along again as light and thinking life's good. Like we've hit this stable trend. I just got married. We had all these trips planned. Like life was good, and then boom, another big thing. So in May, well, before May, I found myself with a lot of health problems. I've been sent to endocrinology. I've been sent to neurology. I thought University of Utah I should get a wing there now because I went to so many stinking specialties. Trying to figure out what's wrong with me. And it was just weird things I couldn't figure out, and bam, I landed in the hospital in May. And I got diagnosed with a really complex heart condition. And crazy enough, no heart conditions like this run in my family. And I actually had a cardiologist tell me that it's broken heart syndrome. That apparently, I don't know whether or not that's true. That because it's his theory, because broken heart syndrome is kind of a theory more than anything. But he was just like, Jordin, your body, like your mind and emotions created, like manifested into my heart, literally physically breaking. And once again, I found myself very frustrated. These are fun pictures. This was in the ER when they told me I was in heart failure, and they were whipping out the paddles and pushing my husband out. Oh my goodness. Also, wheeling me to the room that they told me my husband died in. That was fun. That was a fun day. Then, this is me in the hospital. And then this is a fun, with all my cords hooked up for a stress test, because I had so many tests to figure out what was going on. And I felt again so discouraged, and this time I was so mad. Like I was just so mad, right? Because I'm like, what the heck? Like I finally am on this good trajectory. Why now and why this? And it's like a repercussion of a big thing that happened to me. Like why did it have to be this? And I was talking to my friend. I knew I was going to be speaking at this. This was back in like July. And I also had surgery scheduled, so I knew I was going in for this heart procedure. And I was telling her how frustrated I was, and I told her, I feel kind of like a hypocrite. I'm giving this presentation on hope, and yet I don't think I'm full very much of it, right? And she reminded me, Jordin, just like you had to use all those things the first time, you have to use them again. You have to go back and utilize those same things. So, and she's right. So what did we do? We started working on our healing. And instead of, I was very restricted to, like, my quality of life was very changed. I couldn't work out, we couldn't travel. We were supposed to leave to Disneyland in 2 weeks, my aunt was in the hospital. My sister had a baby in DC, I was supposed to fly out there, like all the plans changed, right? So healing for me looked a little bit more like my physical healing this time. Instead I got real into walking. If they had a marathon for walking, I'd do it because I got real into it, because it's one thing I could do, right? I have to own and accept this new reality. Like this heart condition I got diagnosed with is something I will have the rest of my life. It's something that will affect the rest of my life. It's something that I could potentially need who knows how many procedures and things like that, but I had to own it and accept that, right? Without any shame associated, and just knowing that like, it's okay. We got to that point of owning it and accepting it. And we've had to pivot. Like I said, we've made new plans. So instead of traveling here, we boated a ton and did things here, and it was great. And all of that took a lot of execution and a lot of effort. So just when we think we've got it down, we have to use these things all over again. So again, if we're going to sum it all up, here we go. We just work on the healing. Whatever that looks like for you, because it looks different for everyone. We're going to own it. We're going to accept it. The new reality that we've been dealt, we're going to feel it. All as part of our healing. It's time to pivot. Again, make a new plan. Remember the end of this phase of life, experience, relationship, job, whatever it is the beginning of something new. And we're getting ready to put in the effort and execute those plans you've made and to give it all we've got. True effort always equals some type of result, right? Now, if you're going to take anything from today, I hope it's this quote. Like, to sum it all up with a pretty bow. Also, this is my so cute husband, Colton. And I just have to say, he specifically asked me last night, "Oh, I'm not in this presentation, right?" He's so private. So he gets one picture. So for everyone who's like, wait, why didn't you mention him? It's because I'm under strict instructions not to. So besides the continental US traveling, you know, anything and this. But anyways, this is my wonderful, amazing, darling husband, Colton. But I found this quote, oh gosh, I don't even know how long ago. I have it everywhere. Like it is, I've written it on my mirror. I have it marked in my books as a bookmarker. But this sums it up, like I said, with a beautiful bow. And it just says, if you carry one thing throughout your entire life, let it be hope. Let it be hope that better things are always ahead. Let it be hope that you can get through even the toughest of times. Let it be hope that you are stronger than any challenge that comes your way. Let it be hope that you are exactly where you are meant to be now and that you are on the path to where you are meant to be. Because during these times, hope will be the very thing that carries you through. So again, like we start off in the very beginning, sometimes it starts smaller and we have to start here, but hope will propel us and give us the momentum through healing, through owning our narrative, through finding the pivots and through executing our new plans. We will get there, right? And we will all get back to the path and where the universe wants us to go and align. Thank you so much for being here. I think we have like 10 minutes for questions. They told me to leave like 10 minutes, but if there's no, well, there's one. Yes.
I'm not going to ask you a question, but I just want to express I hate you. And so I too was a young widow. I was 37 though, but I had 4 preteen and teen kids. And then later on in my life, one of those children went on a mission, and on his 23rd month, he had a seizure, and he needed to come home. And within a few days, he was in brain surgery. And the doctor, he happened to speak French, and his doctor was also French, that's when I started my miracle journal in addition to my
Love that.
miracle journal, and because there were many miracles. But I was a single mom with this kid, and when they came back to him when he was awake and they had done biopsy and everything, and they told him that he may have 18 months to live. And his first words were "Gardez espoir," which I'm not saying it well in French, which was "keep hope." That was the first words out of his mouth to his French-speaking surgeon, who they still to this day, many years later, this boy now has 4 children. He had more courage than anybody I know. But the word hope means so much to me. It's put on our wall and everything, so thank you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Oh, yes.
Well, I was just going to say, currently about to complete a chaplaincy program.
Okay.
Along with, and then I've worked for the Alzheimer's Association, so I don't know where that's going. We'll see where God puts me, right?
Yes.
But I just so appreciate that last comment about that grief is not linear, because I deal with families constantly who feel like I'm going to grin and bear it, I'm going to get through this, and it's just another trial. And we can all endure to the end, but we don't have to do it as miserably as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And I love, so thank you for stating how important it is that we give ourselves a little bit of grace, and that grief comes and it goes, and we need to be open to that. And the permission to do that is something we often need to hear someone else tell us. So.
Yes, thank you. I'm not you're saying that. This is a quote that I share a lot when I speak, and I didn't today because I forgot. But I don't even know who said it, but I remember it was saying that they said the most powerful human tool that we can learn as human beings is how to grieve, because the only thing consistent in life is change. Yeah. And so we all have to learn how to grieve. Like mine was big, right? It's a big grief, but grief comes in all shapes and forms when change comes, right? And so we have to learn how to grieve. That's a skill that we all we'll have to challenge our grief almost too, that we'll all have to learn. So it's not linear, but
not.
But man, we'll all go through it. So yes, well, thank you. I think we have like 4 minutes left too, until there was like 2 minutes. Oh, we have 2 minutes left. Okay, so there you go. we got out a few minutes early. Well, it's great. I actually love that there's no questions. So I'll take comments before.
It'll take a moment though to fill out their questionnaire.
Oh, there you go.
QR code in your booklet. If you'll answer those 2-3 simple questions about this presentation, so we can next year even better and bigger. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time and sharing your